No electric stove, no gas bill, just fire, iron, and eggs. In 1985 rural Mexico, dinner was cooked over mesquite and the skillet was the only kitchen equipment that mattered. Here are 15 forgotten one-skillet egg dinners made over Mexican wood fires in 1985, and why the smoke is still the most important ingredient. Number 15. Huevos con salsa tatemada / eggs with ember-charred salsa tatemado means charred directly in the fire, tomato, onion, and garlic, placed in the embers until the skins turned black and the insides went molten. Crushed roughly while still hot, the salsa arrived at the skillet already smoky, already sweet from the charred onion, already complex. Eggs scrambled through in an iron skillet over wood fire, absorbed another layer of smoke from the pan itself. The result was an egg dish with 3 kinds of smoke: the ember, the charred vegetable, and the iron. Nothing you can replicate on a gas burner. Not entirely. Number 14. Huevos con nopales a la brasa / terwin. Cactus grilled over wood. Then eggs, the nopales, went onto the grate directly. Whole pads, pressed flat against the iron bars, cooking over mesquite until the edges charred and the centers softened and the sliminess cooked out entirely. Sliced into strips while still hot, then returned to the skillet with eggs scrambled over them. The char added a bitter edge that contrasted with the egg's richness. In 1985 rural kitchens, this was how nopales were always prepared, not boiled, grilled, and the difference is as significant as the difference between roasted and raw. Number 13. Torta de huevo a la leña / wood fire egg cake, eggs, beaten until foamy, poured into a well-seasoned iron skillet over a medium-heat wood fire, covered with a clay lid or a piece of comal, so the top cooked from trapped heat above, while the bottom set from the fire below. The result was a thick, puffed egg round, with a slight smoke ring at the bottom, and a custardy center no oven can replicate, because an oven doesn't have a bottom heat source this direct. Served in wedges with red or green salsa, this was the 1985 version of a dinner that looked like it required skill, which it did. Managing wood fire heat under an iron skillet without burning the bottom was an art form. Number 12. Huevos con hierbas del monte / wild mountain herb eggs. The herbs that grew on hillsides, epazote, chipilín, hierba santa, papalo, verdolaga, hit the skillet and released oils that smelled different over live fire than over gas. More intense, more floral, the heat pulling everything from the leaf at once. Eggs scrambled through the wilted herbs became herb-forward in a way that almost reversed the proportion in your mind. The herbs tasted like the main event, and the egg tasted like the vehicle. In 1985, these herbs cost nothing and grew everywhere. What they gave the egg was a flavor tied completely to the land where they were gathered. Number 11. Huevos con papas a la. Res coldu / ash minus cooked potatoes with eggs, potatoes buried in the ash under the wood fire and left while the fire burned. The original baked potato, slower and smokier than any oven method. When dug out and peeled, the flesh was smoky, slightly caramelized from the ash heat. Broken into pieces in the skillet with lard and salt, then eggs scrambled over them so the potato crumbled through the scramble, every piece carrying the ash smoke flavor from the inside out. This was the dinner made when the fire was already burning for another reason and the potatoes were the opportunistic meal. These weren't just recipes, they were memories. They helped families through hard times. Let's continue. Number 10. Huevos and salsa de chiles asados / eggs in multi-chili fire-roasted salsa, 3 chilies, all toasted directly on the wood fire comal, a dried ancho for body, a chili de árbol for heat, a morita for smoke, each handled differently over the fire, soaked together, blended with charred tomato, fried in the iron skillet until the sauce unified into something with layers that took real time to taste through. Eggs poached directly inside, lid on. Every bite was different, here the ancho sweetness, there the árbol heat, underneath it all the morita smoke. Wood fire gave all of it an additional dimension. Number 9. Huevos con queso de rancho / ranch cheese and eggs over fire. Ranch cheese, in 1985 rural Mexico, was made on the property. Salty and dense, with a flavor tied to the specific milk, the specific animal, the specific maker. Crumbled into the skillet over wood heat, it caramelized in the pan fat, developing a slightly nutty crust. Eggs scrambled over it, so the cheese distributed through the scramble, in pieces ranging from melted creamy to firm browned. The fire below ran hotter at the center of the skillet, which meant the middle cooked faster. Grandma moved the food constantly with the spoon. That was the skill the fire demanded. Number 8. Huevos con tasajo y salsa tatemada / Oaxacan, dried beef and eggs tasajo. Oaxacan dried and salted beef went directly on the grate, taking char on both sides in less than 2 minutes, before being torn into pieces and returned to the iron skillet with lard and a quick salsa tatemada. Eggs scrambled in last, coating the tasajo pieces so the beef and the egg became inseparable. The smoke from the wood, the char from the grate, the salsa from the comal, everything tasted like fire, in a different way. Tasajo with eggs over wood fire tasted like a region, not just a dish. Number 7. Huevos and chile guajillo tatemado / eggs in fire-roasted guajillo sauce. Guajillo chilies roasted on the wood fire comal until the skin blistered and the chili puffed, fragrant in a way that's only possible with dry heat. Soaked, blended with charred garlic and ember-cooked onion, then fried in the iron skillet in lard until brick red and unified. Eggs cracked directly in and poached with a tortilla over the top as a lid. The guajillo's natural sweetness came through cleanly, because nothing competed with it. No extra chilies, no tomato, just the guajillo and the fire and the egg. In 1985, this was the elegant version of a one-skillet dinner. Number 6. Huevos pochados and caldo de hierba santa / eggs, poached in holy leaf broth. A few leaves of hierba santa dropped into simmering water with a garlic clove, a chili, and salt, made a broth that smelled like anise and pepper, and something wild. The specific scent of hierba santa intensified by wood heat. Eggs cracked directly in and covered with a clay lid. The whites took on the green tint of the herb. The yolks stayed golden. Served in clay bowls with broth poured around, this was the most visually striking of the wood fire egg dinners. The fire made it, the herb made it. The hands that gathered the herb that same morning made it complete. Number 5. Huevos con frijoles negros a la leña / wood fire black bean. Eggs. The bean pot had been on the wood fire since morning. Long simmered black beans with epazote and a charred onion, the pot developing a slight residue from the smoke. Beans ladled into the iron skillet with their thick caldo, brought to a simmer over the active wood fire. Eggs cracked in and poached until the whites set. The skillet over the fire created a slight set at the bottom where the beans touched the iron, while the top stayed loose and liquid. Eggs and beans over fire tasted ancient. There was no other word for it. Number 4. Revoltijo en comal de barro / everything, minus scrambled on a clay comal, whatever was in the kitchen. Beans, yesterday's tortilla pieces, chili salsa, a piece of culites, cheese crumbles. Spread across the warm clay comal, arranged flat, eggs poured over and dragged slowly with a wooden spoon as they set. Not a scramble in a Western sense, more like everything on the comal becoming one thing, slowly, with the clay heat distributing evenly, and the wood smoke wrapping around all of it. The comal as the mixing surface. The wood fire as the equalizer that made whatever was there taste intentional. Number 3. Huevos con cecina asada / grilled salted beef with eggs. Cecina, salt dried beef sliced thin, hit the iron grate over wood and took color fast. The thin slices curled at the edges from the heat and released a salty, slightly smoky drip that fell into the coals and came back up as flavor. Removed from the grate, torn, placed in the iron skillet with lard and onion, eggs scrambled over so everything combined into a loose, salty, smoky scramble with pieces of crisp beef throughout. Every piece of egg that picked up a bit of charred cecina edge was the best bite. Number 2. Huevos con chorizo de grano al fuego / grain chorizo and eggs over fire. Regional grain chorizo. Looser and more textured than the commercial version, more deeply spiced, rendered its fat into the iron skillet over wood heat and the kitchen filled with the kind of smell that makes people drift in from other rooms. Diced potato went into the fat first, crisping at the edges from the direct heat below. Eggs scrambled through everything last, turning the whole skillet into one unified, deeply flavored dinner. The wood fire ran hotter at the center of the skillet. Grandma moved the food constantly. That was what the fire demanded. Number 1. Huevos a la lumbre / eggs by the fire. the simplest dish and the one that best explains why wood fire changes everything. A single egg cracked onto a piece of clay comel over direct mesquite flame. No fat, no additions. Just the egg on the hot clay, the wood smoke wrapping around it from below, the whites setting with a slight tightness that dry clay heat creates, firmer at the edges, softer in the center, the yolk completely liquid. A pinch of salt, a warm tortilla made on the same comel, eaten immediately. In 1985, for children who followed the cook to the fire, this was the egg they ate standing up while dinner was still being prepared. It tasted like fire and like the hand that made it. The wood fire is gone from most kitchens now. The iron skillets are still there, in some houses, black and seasoned from decades of use, heavy in a way that modern pans don't try to be. They hold a memory that the pans themselves can't explain. In 1985, the women who cooked over those fires didn't think of themselves as doing something significant. They were making dinner, they were managing heat, they were feeding people, and then getting ready for the next morning. What they were also doing, without knowing it, was creating a flavor archive that no modern kitchen can fully recreate. Because you can't buy mesquite memory, and you can't factory produce the hand that moved the egg across a clay comel at exactly the right moment. What you can do is remember it, learn it, keep it from disappearing entirely. If your family cooked over fire, wood, coal, comal, anything, share the dish in the comments. That specific recipe, that specific smell, that specific person. Every family has recipes. Every recipe has a story. Thank you for sharing this one with us. Until next time.